Ghost before the title. Please come, Holy Spirit. Ever wonder why? Chapter 6, Part 1. The Global Elitists, Purveyors of Evil. In the ending of Chapter 5, I mentioned that I have been telling people for more than 40 years now that there are basically 13 families that run this world. I call these 13 families the Puppet Masters. So whenever you see or hear the words Puppet Masters, you will know who I am referring to. I am referring to these 13 families and their original bloodlines. These 13 families are the base of all the super rich global elitists who destroy nations, so they can achieve their goal of global domination. Power, influence, and control are their only outlets for excitement. Like I said in Chapter 5, these people are so rich, so bored, so envious, and so greedy, they have nothing better to do than to play with people's lives. It is fun for them to think that they can play God. They use subterfuge to stir up one country and or nation against another. Then they fund both sides of the warring factions, so no matter who wins or loses, they profit from both sides of every war. When the warring countries are weakened and are made vulnerable from the wars that the Puppet Masters began, the Puppet Masters march right in and overtake the countries. They do this under the disguise of clandestine peace treaties, so-called foreign aid, and trade agreements. They negotiate secret deals with both the winners and the losers to secretly steal their nation's land, wealth, resources, and sovereignty. And then they turn around and they enslave the people of both countries that they financed by drowning them in bogus debt. Whenever, and as soon as the Puppet Masters get their claws into countries and or nations, those countries and or nations will never be free again. This perpetuates ongoing wars, because it is not long before those countries and or nations' leaders, / puppets, soon become dissatisfied with the secret deals they made with their Puppet Masters to enrich themselves. Once the puppets get a taste of money and power, they always get greedier, and they always want more money and more power. The Puppet Masters already know this is the nature of the beast, and this is another reason why the Puppet Masters love playing God with people's lives. Because the Puppet Masters know that the puppets will constantly need replacing, which only gives the Puppet Masters more incentive to keep the cycle going. Keeping the cycle going keeps the wars going. The constant replacing of the puppets installed by the Puppet Masters only means more wars for the Puppet Masters to profit by. Meanwhile, the lives of the poor peons, the people who actually do most of the fighting and dying, are the ones who suffer the most. By getting caught up in these wars that they don't even want, their lives hang in the balance and mean nothing to the Puppet Masters. They either get poorer or they die. But that doesn't matter to the Puppet Masters because they don't really care how many people have to die or how many people have to shed their blood, as long as the Puppet Masters continue to profit from both sides of the wars that they create. How do they collect from both sides, you ask? It is really quite simple. By financing both sides of the wars, both the winners and the losers immediately become indebted to the Puppet Masters. And from there, it is only a small step to rape, pillage, and plunder these countries off their land, wealth, resources, and sovereignty, all the while impoverishing the peoples of those countries and or nations. There is no profit in peace compared to the profits the Puppet Masters make from the wars they create. They don't care what they have to do or how many people's lives they have to destroy in order to keep increasing their wealth, power, and influence. All they care about are themselves. Take the Rothschilds, for example. The Rothschilds are only one family of the 13 families. And the Rothschild family own nearly every central bank in the world from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe. In case you are not aware of what a central bank is the national bank of a country. For example, the United States Federal Reserve in the U.S., the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada, the Bundesbank of Germany. They all have national-sounding names, but none of them are owned by the nations they claim to represent. They are all privately owned and operated by a very small group of families. This small group of families also own the crown jewel of all the central banks, the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, located in Switzerland. These 13 families also own and operate other types of banks. The following is just a partial list of the banks they own and operate. Maybe you're familiar with some of them. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the WBG, the World Bank Group, which includes the World Bank, the IBRD, the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the IDA, the International Development Association, the IFC, the International Finance Corporation, the MIGA, the Multicultural Investment Guarantee Agency, and the ICSID, the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. These are just a few of the types of banks, other than the central banks, that these 13 families own and operate. Now you tell me, do you really think with that kind of money to pay off, to offer, to buy, to bribe, to corrupt and to influence less fortunate people, they can't achieve their goal of global domination? Are you kidding me? They've been working on it for centuries. It is only a matter of time. Here is a very small list, a partial list, of the types of organizations these 13 families own, operate, and run. These 13 families are the ones behind the formation of the United Nations, also known as the UN. They claim the UN was created for world peace, but in fact it was created for world domination. Have you ever seen their logo? It is a picture of the world with a target site superimposed on top of it. Or if you prefer, it is a picture of the world superimposed underneath the target site. Either way, the globe and the world is their target. They use the UN's NATO soldiers as their one world army to enforce the laws they dictate and impose upon multiple nations. They are plotting and working to take over, seize control, and amalgamate the entire world's nations, religions, laws, and enforcement agencies under one roof, theirs. Also under their control are the WHO, the World Health Organization, the WTC, the World Trade Center, the WTO, the World Trade Organization, the WWF, the World Wildlife Fund, the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and many, 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 many more. Then there is the Bilderberg Group, which many people believe to be the most powerful and influential of their groups. Many believe they are the cream of the crop, so to speak. I don't believe it for a second. I believe they are just influential and powerful front men, front women, front puppets for a very much smaller group. I believe they are just the puppets of the real puppet masters, and nothing more. Now, here is a partial list of how far the puppet masters' money, power, and influence reaches. They either own, control, or influence all the money of the world, all the natural resources, all the energy, all the minerals, all the utilities, all the major transportation systems, all the telecommunications, all the highly advanced technologies, including nanotechnologies and computer sciences. They also own, control, or influence all the high sciences, all the cutting-edge medical breakthroughs, all the pharmaceuticals, all the mainline print and broadcast media, all the big corporations, all the big businesses, all the profitable industries, all the weapons of war, and not just the conventional weapons like bombs and bullets, but also the chemical, biological, and psychological weapons. They also own, control, or influence all the so-called politicians, right down from your local civil servants and mayor, right up to the head of countries, including the Vatican. Owning, controlling, and or influencing all the top political leaders of the world gives them control and influence over worldwide judicial systems, prison systems, police and military forces, to ensure the laws that they dictate are enacted and enforced. They accomplish this by compelling their most powerful, strategically placed politician puppets to pass legislation that they dictate and that they require to further facilitate their agenda of global dominance. Now you tell me, do you really think with a partial resume like that these puppet masters can and won't eventually achieve their goal of global domination? Unless they are stopped, they won't stop on their own. They will never stop until they achieve their desired goal, which is a new world order. I believe the majority of people working for the puppet masters in their banks and in their organizations are basically good people. I also believe the puppet masters purposely keep these people in the dark and ignorant of the elitists' true agenda. I would say the majority of the unwitting employees are not evil people per se. They just don't know the true evil is being carried out by their puppet masters behind the scenes. Most of them are probably just happy to have a job. They either don't know what is really going on, or if they do and they turn a blind eye, then I think they can be considered evil too. You might be asking yourself at this point, if these puppet masters have all this money, power, control, and influence, what more could they want? The answer is quite simple. Ownership. Not only of the world and its resources, but ownership of you and me too. That is what they truly want. We are also resources. Why do you think we are now referred to as human resources? Right now, they only have money, power, and influence, with a limited amount of ownership and control. They do not own and control every single thing or every single person of the entire world yet. They currently are, and have been for centuries, working very diligently non-stop to get it, though. They are striving daily for world domination and are making great progress. That is one of their goals. They want a one-world government that is controlled by them. This is their first step. Their next step, the second step of these 13 families of the global elitists, is they want total ownership and absolute control over every single living person who, in their opinion, are inferior to them. Owning the world is not enough for these people. They want to own us too. That is, a limited number of us. Their agenda is to decrease the world's population by at least 80%, if not more. As for the rest of us, the ones who they permit to live, they want to make us their slaves. Those of us who are unsuitable for bondage and slavery will be used for medical experimentation and eventually eradicated and or murdered, if you prefer that word. Google Georgia Guidestones and you will find out exactly what their agenda is and exactly what their ideal goal is for the world's population cast in stone. They want to deny us of our freedom, our rights, our civil liberties, our privacy, our property, our money, our thoughts, our dreams, our desires, our aspirations, our choices, our position in life, our food, our water, our body, and our soul. In short, they want to deprive us of every aspect of our life. These despicable 13 families are the ones who start the wars and then finance both sides of the wars. Simply put, they profit from every war. They are also the ones who unleash man-made plagues upon mankind and upon the world. They are the ones who carry out massive chemical, biological, and psychological experiments on an unknowing public. They infect populations with diseases through their so-called vaccination programs and then withhold the antidotes. They control and withhold many medical breakthroughs and cures. They inflict pain, torture, and death upon the masses. They ensure hunger, poverty, need, greed, crisis, turmoil, chaos, and every other human depravity remain and prosper in the world. They keep all kinds of inventions and discoveries that would truly benefit mankind off the market. They are also the ones who lie continuously, inventing bogus monetary, environmental, and energy crises on a global scale. They are the ones who are poisoning our food and our drinking water. They are the ones who are polluting our air, land, and waterways. And they are the ones who expect us to pay for and clean up the mess they've created, through carbon, green, environmental, and all sorts of other taxes. They use their invented, phony global propaganda crises to create fear among the masses, and then tax the life out of the masses to keep them poor and subjugated. Their dirty deeds and crimes against humanity were masterfully crafted, precisely planned, and printed out on paper to carry out and hand down centuries ago. Motivated by voracious, irrepressible greed, incurable and insatiable lust, and an unquenchable, unappeasable hunger for power, these people believe they are greater than God and better than us, and therefore they should be our lords and masters. They believe they should be the rulers over all mankind. To them we are nothing but goyim, human cattle, nothing but livestock to be bought, sold, traded, and slaughtered. We are seen as useless eaters, who should either be their slaves, medical experiments, or put to death. God forbid, Anyone who is a lower life to these global elitists should ever rise to their level. They'd eliminate, murder, or imprison you first. They will not hesitate to use any despicable means they can dream up to deprive you of what is rightfully yours, and of ever elevating yourself to rise to their position in life. They want to hold you down and keep you bad. God forbid any one of us should ever become as rich and powerful as they are. One of us might want to rival their claim or ownership to something they have, or to something they have designs on. They are afraid if the winds of change were ever to blow, one of us might even end up richer and more powerful than they are. They run, rule, and influence our lives without a lot of us ever knowing it. And what's worse is, they run, rule, and influence our lives without any mercy or conscience. They play God with our lives like we don't count or have any say in the matter. They decide who's going to be the head of a country, whose country will prosper and whose country will flounder. They choose which countries go to war and whose people's lives are expendable. It's time to stand up and be counted, people. You may be asking yourself, how can just 13 families be doing all this? It's really quite simple when you stop and think about that these 13 families have been working on their global mission for centuries. They are no longer just 13 individual families. They have adopted many different names throughout the ages. They have spawned generations upon generations of children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, who must have also presumably married and spawned children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of their own. And so on and so on and so on, all the way down the line for centuries, now tracing back to the original 13 individual families. Marriage creates in-laws, cousins, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, etc., who again, and in turn, have offspring of their own. The proliferation from the original 13 families over the centuries just keeps growing and growing. They are no longer just 13 little families. They are a very large, very wealthy, and very powerful dynasty. They are a lot of greedy people, and there are a lot more of even less fortunate greedy people than them out there that want a piece of their pie. There are people in this world who would sell their souls for a few nickels, fame, power, fortune, etc. It is very easy for these 13 families to buy, influence, and or appoint others to envied positions in life to carry out their plans for them. They recruit and engage others to do their bidding for them without the others even knowing that they are doing it. If and when they achieve their goal of global domination, a new world order, a one world government, with a one world monetary system and a one world religion, it will be very easy for them to place a very small group of people from within the 13 families/dynasties bloodlines to control a very large number of people. All I have to do is place the right people in the right positions at the head of their one world government, their one world bank, and their one world religion. Once they have done that, they automatically have control over all the essentials of people's lives, which gives them the power and the tools to take control over everyone's life. Let's just look at the control over a one world bank as an example of how these 13 families/dynasties and their bloodlines can easily control the lives of billions of people. As soon as they have control over all the monetary issues of every bank in the world, every sub-bank, and all the people of the world, it will be so easy for them to pull on the strings of one of their puppets at the head of their one world bank, and tell that puppet to cut off the money supply to any individual sub-bank they choose. Which means they could also do the same thing to any of their directors, and or any single person they don't like for that matter. The same rule applies to a one-world religion. You either accept their one-world religion and worship their god, who is Lucifer/Satan, or you will be imprisoned, tortured, and or put to death. The same rule applies to a one-world government. You either obey their one-world government's rules, or again, you will be imprisoned, tortured, and or put to death. Let's not be fooled by these 13 families, folks. These 13 dynasties have the money, have the resources, and have the abilities to divide and conquer the world. They make nations rise and fall every day just for fun. They screw around with nations, currencies, resources, and people's lives, just out of boredom, envy, and greed. God said, in the end times there would be wars, earthquakes, pestilences, floods, famines, and so on. But one thing God did not say, God did not say he would be the cause of them all. And when you shall hear of wars and seditions, be not terrified. These things must first come to pass, but the end is not yet presently. Then he said, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be great earthquakes in divers places, and pestilences, and famines, and terrors from heaven. And there shall be great signs. Luke 21:9, 10, and 11. These people of these 13 dynasties are so rich and so powerful, they think they can rival God. They truly do cause nation to rise against nation and kingdom to rise against kingdom. They've been doing it for centuries. With all the money, power, and technology they control these days, these 13 families truly can cause great earthquakes in diverse places, and pestilences, and famines, and terrors from the heavens. It is easy for them to create great earthquakes. Just Google HARP. They can easily spread pestilences by unleashing biological weapons created in secret labs, using vaccines, chemicals sprayed from planes and or added to water supplies, and so on and so on. Trust me, it's not hard for them to create famines by controlling the world's food supplies. They've done it in the past and currently continue to pay farmers not to grow crops, raise cattle, poultry, or other food sources. They can easily create floods and terrors from the heavens by simply manipulating the weather. Again, Google HARP. Lots of people will take these as great signs from God because they don't know better. And trust me, a lot of people won't know better because they are being indoctrinated not to know better from an early age. Through the NWO, the New World Order education plans for our children, and the newly perverted Bibles our children are being exposed to. Our children are being taught to believe complete lies from corrupted Bibles. I've warned people of how the text in the Bibles these days is being perverted and corrupted so much so that it only serves the agendas of those in power. In the preface of this V-book, I said, the text has been changed so many times and so much, and still continues to change nowadays. Words have been added, words have been subtracted, words have been watered down, twisted, and altered so much. The modern-day Bibles have lost their original flavor and truths. With the modernizing and manipulating of the Bible's words, its original precepts have been swayed to serve the current agenda of our modern-day elitists, of which our Pope is one. I gave a few examples of how much the wording has been changed over the years. I used Ecclesiastes 1:2 and 2 Corinthians 10:18 as a couple of examples. Here is another change I really dislike. I do not like what they did to 1 Corinthians 13:13. In the Bible I originally read, 1 Corinthians 13:13 went like this. And now there remain faith, hope, and love. And of these three, love is the greatest. Today's Bible's copies read like this. And now there remain faith, hope, and charity. These three. But the greatest of these is charity. 1 Corinthians 13:13. I don't know why the Catholic Church would change the word love to charity, other than they are trying to fleece their flock, falsely making their flock believe giving more money to an already excessively rich church, Vatican, and Pope is the greatest gift they can give. I, for one, believe love is greater than charity. Charity comes from love, but love does not necessarily come from charity. Therefore, love is the greater. And besides that, Jesus Christ does not tell us God's greatest and first commandment says, You shall give charity to the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your might. God does not want or need our charity. God wants and needs our love. Jesus Christ tells us God's greatest and first commandment is this. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your might. At least that's what Matthew 22:37 used to say. In today's corrupted Catholic Bible, it says, You shall love the Lord thy God with your whole heart, with your whole soul, and with your whole mind. That's what Matthew 22:37 says in today's corrupted Catholic Bible. Today's corrupted Catholic Bible completely leaves out the part about loving the Lord your God with all your might and with all your strength. And Jesus Christ also tells us God's second commandment is this, You shall love thy neighbor as thyself. Matthew 22:39. This to me sounds a little more like where charity should come in. Love God first and give to your church second, not the other way around. The Catholic Church is trying to make us believe that charity is greater than love. And personally, I don't believe that for a second. Let me ask you a question. What does the New International Version Study Bible and the Satanic Bible written by Anton LaVey have in common? Both are published by HarperCollins and Zondervan, one of HarperCollins' subsidiaries. The explanation can be seen on the next image. Please press pause and take a moment to read it. Thank you. Who would have ever guessed the New International Version Study Bible and the Satanic Bible are both published by the same parent company publishing house, HarperCollins? And did you notice how closely related HarperCollins' subsidiary company named Zondervan is to Anton LaVey's middle name, Zandor? Makes you wonder. The ones in power will preach. It must be true. It's in the Bible. And our children will believe them because our children will not know any better, unless we teach them the truth. And Jesus answering began to say to them, For false Christs and false prophets will rise up, and they shall show signs and wonders to seduce, if it were possible, even the elect. Mark 13:22. Take heed, lest any man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am he, and they shall deceive many. Mark 13:5 and 6. Take heed, you are not seduced, for many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time is at hand. Do not go after them. Luke 21:8. For many will come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and they will seduce many. Matthew 24:5. People are being dumbed down on such a massive scale today that it has never been seen before in the history of the world. I think that is plenty of warning about these kinds of evil people and the powers they have displayed. Be wise, one and all. Think and wonder not about the powers they have already shown, but be more truly cautious and genuinely concerned about the powers which they have hidden away and the powers they have not yet displayed. Those are the ones to watch out for, and those are the ones that we should be worried about. Don't be fooled by whatever signs you might see or whatever wonders you might witness. If someone is claiming to be Jesus, don't believe them. If you ever hear someone say, look over here or look over there, it is Jesus, don't believe them. Or if ever someone says to you, follow me, I have seen and found or witnessed Jesus, don't believe them. If ever another person claims to be Jesus and might display extraordinary signs to back up their claim, don't believe them. It is just another part of the dog and pony show put on by the elitists to fool you. Unless you see Jesus Christ coming in the clouds with your very own eyes, and he sends his angels to gather you together with his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven, no matter what anyone else says or claims, it is not Jesus Christ. Don't be fooled by any false Messiah con artists either. God said when Jesus does return, he will be returning in the clouds, and every eyeball on this planet will see him at the same time. For as lightning comes out of the east and appears even into the west, so shall the coming of the Jesus Christ be. Matthew 24:27. Anything other than that is a false sign or wonder being perpetrated by the global elitists to deceive the masses. Anyone and everyone who was ever born on this planet will see Jesus Christ coming in the clouds at the same time. That includes every eye that is buried in the ground and in the oceans and in the seas. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall rise again incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. 1 Corinthians 15:52 and 53. The appearance of Jesus Christ coming in the clouds won't be just over here or just over there. It'll be everywhere for everyone to see. So if anyone ever says to you, look, I am the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Look, I can perform miracles. Or look, Jesus is over here. Or look, Jesus is over there. Do not believe them. They are liars working for Lucifer to deceive you. And if any man shall say to you, look, here is Christ, or there, do not believe him. Matthew 24:23. I hope you notice how I changed terrors from heaven from the Bible to terrors from the heavens, referring to the global elitists. I did this on purpose because when God said there would be wars, terrors from heaven, earthquakes, pestilences, famines, and floods, God did not say he would cause them all. When I said that, I didn't mean to imply God wouldn't cause any of them, because he surely will. Take heed, therefore. Behold, I have foretold you all things. But in those days after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars of heaven shall be falling down, and the powers that are in heaven shall be moved. Then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. And then he shall send his angels, and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven. Mark 13:23-27. So I hope you can see why I had to change the wording between terrors from heaven, which are terrors which come from God, and terrors from the heavens, which are terrors which come from mankind. These evil puppet masters playing God can create terrors from the heavens, using weapons like harp. Google it. You should also Google Rod of God, or Rod from God, if you haven't heard about these things. They may also be used to create terrors from the heavens by the puppet masters playing God. Whereas God, who is God, does not have to play God. He will show us one and all what real terrors from heaven truly are. So it is up to us to keep a constant vigil and watch over these things, so we don't confuse the two. It is up to us to know the difference between the real terrors from heaven, the ones from God, and the bogus terrors from the heavens, the ones from the puppet masters playing God. The terrors from the heavens that the puppet masters create will probably look, feel, smell, sound, and taste very real. And for all intents and purposes, they will have a real effect on humanity. Just remember that they are man-made and come from the global elite to frighten us and to make us cow down and pay homage to them. Always spread and keep God's words and God's warnings in the forefront of your mind, and that's how you will be able to discern and avoid being fooled by them. And then, if any man shall say to you, Behold, here is Christ. Look, he is here. Do not believe them. For there will rise up false Christs and false prophets, and they shall show signs and wonders to seduce, if it were possible, even the elect. Mark 13:22. You, and hopefully your children, will know better. Remember, the real terrors from heaven will come from God in heaven, and the terrors from the heavens will come from the puppet masters here on earth to fool mankind. God and the real Jesus Christ will come in the clouds, but of that day or hour no man knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but the Father. Take heed, watch and pray, for you know not when the time is. Mark 13:32-33. Watch therefore, for you know not when the Lord of the house is coming, at evening or at midnight, or at the cock crowing or in the morning, unless, coming suddenly, he finds you sleeping. And what I say to you, I say to all, watch. Mark 13:35-37. There, you have been warned again. It'll be better for you and for yours if you join the elect of God now, while you can. If you are wise and join the elect of God now, while you can, God will teach you to know the difference between man-made terrors and terrors from God. God will also help you to remember that God did not say he would be the cause of all the calamities the world is currently experiencing. If you want some examples, just look at all the earthquakes, floods, famines, tsunamis, tropical storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, regular record rain and snowfalls in places where they hardly ever occur. And all you have to do is just look to the puppet masters and their machines, and you will know that these terrors from the heavens are man-made. They are not from God. However, these terrors from the heavens are nothing compared to what else is coming from the puppet masters to depopulate the world and enslave us and our souls. If you really want to know what else is coming from the heavens created by these puppet masters, just Google Project Bluebeam, And we'll discuss Project Bluebeam and the phony alien invasion a little later in this V-book. More importantly, though, we'll also discuss Project Bluebeam and the false prophets and Christs coming in the clouds to tell us everything we know and believe about our God and our religion is all wrong. Project Bluebeam is the devil's and the global elitists' ultimate weapon. How the global elitists plan to use their ultimate weapon to dupe the world into worshipping a one-world leader/God is very important stuff to know about. So keep an eye out for that chapter. But for now, let's just get back to the elitists owning us body and soul. The third step of these global elitists is they want to ultimately own our souls. Their final goal, or their end game if you prefer, is to gain absolute control over every living soul. They want to own every single one of us and every single one of our souls. They want to issue a worldwide edict, which enacts and enforces a law giving them the right to eliminate and enslave every soul's physical body by decree. You might ask yourself, how can they gain absolute control of our soul? By owning and controlling the necessities of life and death, it is really quite simple for them to take control of our soul. Our instinct for survival makes us susceptible to their bow down and worship me demands. They have the technology, it is only a matter of time. And it was given him to give life to the image of the beast, and that the image of the beast should speak, and should cause that whosoever will not adore the image of the beast should be slain. Revelation 13:15. And that no man might buy or sell, but he that has the character or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Revelation 13:17. In other words, worship the beast, the Antichrist, or die. Here is wisdom. He that has understanding, let him count the number of the beast. For it is the number of the man, and the number of him is 666. Revelation 13:18. Owning, controlling, and enslaving our physical body is only second prize. The real reason behind a one-world government is to enslave our soul. Our soul is the Holy Grail. Nobody really speaks about that when it comes to the New World Order, the NWO. All most people ever talk about is the evil deeds they perpetrate on humans less fortunate than they are. Hardly anybody talks about the real reason why they are doing all that they are doing step by step. The real reason is they want to own and enslave every single one of our physical bodies so they can own and enslave every one of our spiritual souls. Only then can they make us, or try to make us, bow down and worship the beast, Lucifer, the Antichrist. They'll give us a choice, either worship the beast or die. That is their true agenda, and that is their ultimate goal. And I say to you, my friends, be not afraid of them who kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do. Luke 12:4. And do not fear them that kill the body, and are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him that can destroy both soul and the body in hell. Matthew 10:28. Choosing to accept the mark of the beast is choosing to worship the beast. Choosing to worship the beast is choosing the ways of the New World Order. And choosing the ways of the New World Order is choosing the ways of worshiping the devil. Then you are truly enslaved by true evil. Consider it as your lot in life if you choose to accept the mark of the beast. But be certain of one thing, and be certain you understand you know the price in death is your soul. The puppet masters of the New World Order already know suffering the loss of your soul is the price of accepting the mark of the beast. That is why they not only want, but need absolute control over every living person, so that they can bring more souls to Satan. Once the puppet masters have control of a one-world government, it will be easy for them to make worldwide laws. Laws like, everyone must have the mark of the beast in order to buy or sell, and everyone must worship the beast in order to live. With laws like these, the puppet masters will surely gain control of a lot of people's souls. Many people will choose the mark of the beast rather than starve and die. However, God clearly states, if you take the mark of the beast, you, meaning you and your soul, will be cast into the fires of hell. And I quote, And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man shall adore the beast in his image, and receive his character in his forehead, or in his hand, he also shall drink the wine of the wrath of God, which is mingled with pure wine in the cup of his wrath, and shall be tormented with fire and brimstone, in the sight of the holy angels, and in the sight of the Lamb. Revelation 14:9 and 10. And the smoke of their torment shall ascend up forever and ever. Neither have they rest day or night, who has adored the beast and his image, and whoever receives the character of his name. Revelation 14:11. End of chapter 6. All honor and glory to God. Coming next, chapter 7, RFID, radio frequency identification, and the mark of the beast. Until then, remember, the devil is stalking you, and God is calling you.